Flashback.
Building another wing to the White House, but we appreciate you keeping your focus.
You can't even imagine, TJ. It's going to happen for the next 2 years. All of the banging, the jackhammering, the dust, the confusion, the noise of all places to do construction is happening right here, the front lawn of the White House.
It's a 4-year renovation project. Estimated cost, $376 million.
Much later.
Well, as I mentioned on this program a couple weeks ago, I think it's fairly grotesque to begin construction, just the optics of beginning construction on a grand ballroom at a time when the government is shut down, inflation is still high, costs are still high.
This is the people's house. And he's like, I don't have a plan. I'm destroying it. And I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing with it. And I'm not going to tell you how much it's going to cost or who's paying for it. The White House looks like a mess. It looks terrible. And now you're going to destroy the entire East Wing? You said you weren't going to touch the East Wing.
You're way too angry about this.
No, I am, because he's a destroyer. It's a symbol of our traditions. It's a symbol of the people, of democracy, of the Constitution. And he comes in there, and that symbol is powerful. Andrew Jackson brought in real people. He was a populist, and he had a huge downsides and upsides, but it was a symbol, right? Oh, okay, now the people are welcome in the White House. There's
the people are not welcome in the White House.
No, I know. That was during Andrew Jackson, Anna. That was a long time ago, okay? So now the symbol that Trump is doing is, me destroy, me smash, me smash. Okay, I got it. And me steal.
Boy. So you got to talk about the latest fake outrage from the mainstream liberal media. Something that they would not boo-hoo, whine, and cry about if a Democrat was in charge, if a Democrat was in the White House, and if a Democrat decided that, hey, we're going to renovate the White House, right? We're going to make upgrades to the White House. We're going to improve the White House. The liberal media wouldn't be complaining about it. Democrats wouldn't be complaining about it. They would be celebrating it, okay? They'd be saying, this is necessary. We need this. This is great. This is amazing. You're making the people's house better. But because it's Trump, these people are now boohoo, whining, crying, claiming that President Trump is destroying the White House because he's decided that, hey, we should have a ballroom in the East Wing. Now, I don't know the full extent of the plans and what they're going to do. And to be honest with you guys, I really don't care. I don't care if a Democrat was doing this. I don't care if a Republican is doing it. Like, I am indifferent on this. Like, I don't care, right? President Trump apparently is going to be using his own money in private funds. And it's not going to cost taxpayers anything, right? At least according to the White House, that is. I don't know. But if that is the case, if it is actually done with private funds, what's the problem? I really don't get it.
He's spending his money and not my taxpayer money. It's okay with me. Right. And as with any old house, things need to be renovated.
So I guess everybody has their own perspective. I kind of look at this as a remodel project. And we've had several administrations in the past. I don't remember. I wasn't around for, I think Hoover. No, Truman. Truman did a total remodel, gutted the White House, tore out the walls because it needed done. This property is, as you know, well over 200 years old. Adding whatever the room's going to be, a ballroom. The only thing I've heard for sure is from several folks that I know that come to Washington have often talked about the need for a bigger meeting space or a hall close to the White House, and it sounds like this is going to do it. So I don't see it as any more than making something better than it was before.
I really don't see any major issue with it. The White House has been changed several times in the past, and it's just something that I feel like Trump felt was needed. So.
Now, I don't understand what is the real outrage. Again, it's not like we haven't seen stuff like this before in the past, okay? And it's not like they're tearing down the whole White House, right, and rebuild another one, in which if they did, I mean, okay, right? But, you know, it's just the East Wing, right? The East Wing is being renovated. And these people pretending like this has never happened before and that this is a huge problem. Take a look.
The Trump White House getting a new look. The administration is overseeing the remodeling of the East Wing, making way for a brand new ballroom that won't cost taxpayers a dime. While many seem to think that the ballroom is a terrific idea, the sight of the demolition crew has some Democrats seething with rage. But at the end of the day, those Democrats who are upset with the new ballroom will eventually be able to use it. They just need over 270 votes. Well, the walls are in construction. They're coming down. Trump is set on giving parts of the White House a more modernized look as the East Wing is currently undergoing the demolition process. Some of Trump's biggest critics call this a terrible idea, like Hillary Clinton, who lost to Trump in 2016 and doesn't seem to think that it's his house. Governor Newsom compares the White House remodeling to ripping apart the Constitution. And Elizabeth Warren is complaining over the sound of bulldozers demolishing the East Wing. Karine Jean-Pierre and the lovely ladies of The View would agree. They seem to think the idea is both tacky and gaudy.
The People's House is basically being sold to the highest bidder.
Yeah.
It is corruption at its core. And I heard someone say this when I was backstage. It could not be, there's no greater metaphor right now than what's happening right now in this country than watching Donald Trump take a wrecking ball to the White House.
Yeah.
That is not your building. You don't own that.
This is a metaphor for what's going on in our country. He is tearing down the house. He is tearing down the people's house. He's an nihilist. And I think, you know, he does seem to think that it's his house, that he is a king. He thinks he's going to be in that ballroom.
Somebody who is building something like this
I'm going to be alive in some of these years.
Does not intend to get out of office.
Amazing. Other liberal media members like Joe Scarborough say Trump's White House remodeling is, quote, grotesque.
It's hard to believe that any president could destroy the White House and take a wrecking ball to an existing structure so historic. That is what's happening. It's grotesque.
It's painful. I mean, this is historic structure.
It's history being torn to shreds.
Mika says she's in pain there. Okay. Well, why the uproar now? The liberal left wasn't this mad when past presidents made key White House changes. Let's revisit them. Teddy Roosevelt built the West Wing. Coolidge made his own renovations. FDR overhauled the West Wing. Truman gutted the whole White House. Look at these pictures. Nixon expanded a whole room for the press, and Ford installed an outdoor swimming pool. How dare they? But the left is mad at Trump building a ballroom. At the end of the day, the White House doesn't seem to care what the liberals in the media are actually saying.
We're putting up our own money with the government is paying for nothing. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound.
Administration after administration have publicly and privately spoken about the need for a larger event space. So while many presidents have privately dreamt about this, it's President Trump who is actually doing something about it.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Furthermore, I would like to add, I find it to be hilarious how the same people who cheered leftists forcefully tearing down symbols of our history, right? Like, for example, statues of the founders, people like Thomas Jefferson, others, right? George Washington. I don't want to hear anything from these people who openly cheerleaded the bringing down of those statues, okay? Now, boo-hoo-whining and crying about the White House getting renovations, right? Because according to them, see, Trump is destroying a symbolism of American history and our traditions. Wait, why weren't you concerned about that? In fact, why were you cheerleading that happening when leftists, again, were tearing down statues of Thomas Jefferson, right? And our founders. Amazing. Now, all of a sudden, they're concerned about preserving history and our traditions, okay? This is why I can't stand these people. There's no principle behind any of this except just hating Trump. And I think that this is just one of the most Trump-deranged stories that I've covered in a long time because I really don't think that there's anything else behind this except we just don't like the fact that Trump is renovating the White House. I mean, me personally, Trump is a real estate developer. I mean, he's using his talents and skills in order to upgrade the people's house. I don't understand what's so bad about that. I don't understand what's wrong with that. He's claiming that it's going to be done with private donations, okay? For all I know, right, maybe the private donors get a plaque or something, right, where they get their names written on something. I don't know exactly what they're getting in return, if anything. Maybe they're not getting anything. Maybe they're just getting the prestige of saying that, hey, we helped to donate to the rebuilding of the East Wing or whatever, right? Like, there's nothing here, right? There's no controversy here. But again, Democrats, because of their Trump derangement, they've decided that this is so serious that they're now threatening the administration and private donors, anybody who's involved with the East Wing being renovated and this ballroom being built. Apparently, again, Democrats think that this is so bad that they have to threaten those people, right? Threaten to go after those people when Democrats take back power and control. Take a look.
More likely, this is part of what Donald Trump has been doing since day one of his presidency, running the largest pay-to-play scheme in the history of the country, and probably soliciting donations from people who've got business before the United States government. And all of this is going to have to be investigated. It will. All of this will have to be uncovered. It will. And these people are going to be held accountable no matter how long it takes. That's going to be the reality of the situation. And that's our warning to all of these people participating in this scheming to manipulate taxpayer dollars and, of course, to destroy the people's house. The White House belongs to the American people. It doesn't belong to Donald Trump.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. All of that over this, right? Over this, as if the White House has never undergone any type of renovations or construction, or, no president ever decided that, hey, you know what, I'm going to change some things around to look the way I want it to look, or to have amenities and things that I want, right? That I feel like are necessary. Again, that's apparently never happened in the history of this country, right? If you listen to Democrats, who again are threatening private donors and the president and the administration for building this ballroom, and this CNN panel right here, who again is going to freak out. They're going to boohoo, whine, and cry over this ballroom being built, which again, at least as far as I know, right, as far as the Trump administration is promising, is not going to be built with taxpayer dollars. Again, I don't see the controversy here, but apparently this is a controversial thing. Let's get into it.
Be a big theme about a lot of things we talk about tonight, and a lot of this administration is just there's no oversight. There's no following the rules. There's no following the historic norms. A new ballroom would be great. It'd be great to have a new ballroom. And I was a mayor. I built a new city hall, a new courthouse, a new police station. I restored historic building as county executive. It's a nice idea to do something like this, but you got to follow some rules. We have to see, are you actually doing this the right way?
Well,
are there some ethical questions about taking the money from people?
They would.
And it may not be.
Here's the thing: would you rather it be built with tax dollars, or would you rather be built with private donations? Right? If it's being built with private donations, then hey, it's not being built with tax dollars. You can't make the argument that, well, see, in this terrible Trump economy, they're using your tax funds to build a lavish ballroom, right? You can't make that argument, right? And because they can't make that argument, I think that's what's pissing them off the most. And this is why it's now, well, we just don't like it because Trump's doing it. This guy just went over all of the projects that he was involved with in regards to renovations, building things. For whatever reason, no controversy, right? Totally fine, right? But when Trump does it, now all of a sudden it's a problem, right? It's a big deal. And again, it's not even using taxpayer dollars. So just pay attention to how these Democrats and these liberals, they're grasping for straws in order to try to make this some big controversial thing. And it just all sounds silly, right? It all sounds really stupid. It sounds like peak Trump derangement.
It's a big ethical question. I mean, shouldn't we know who's giving the money? Shouldn't we know what business they have before the government?
Can I just finish? Of course. It may be a good thing. This may turn out to be a great thing. But let's just follow some process so we know that it's actually a good thing and you're not actually violating
the president
rules.
Would need to go to Congress for appropriations if he was asking for federal dollars to do this. In this case, he's not asking for federal dollars. So there's no ethical conflicts here? I mean, Congressman, there's ethical conflicts for everything.
But we just don't know.
Do you know who's paying for it?
We just don't know.
I agree with you.
So let's follow some basic procedures and processes.
We don't know, Congressman, so we also shouldn't assume that they exist.
I'm not
because of your line of thinking. We don't know if there's ethical. Your line of thinking. We don't know if there's ethical.
I'm not assuming. I'm saying I'm not following the process.
Tim, that's not how ethics works.
We should talk to the attorneys. If the attorneys flag that there's some ethical conflicts, I'm sure that they'll deal with it.
That's not how ethics works. We have to. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I do want to spend a moment on the ethical part of it because I think it's important. You're basically saying, well, if there's something bad, we'll find out. That seems like quite the opposite of how these things usually work. There's usually an oversight process for stuff like this to prevent ethical conflicts from just slipping in the cracks. I mean, who's to say that somebody was going to self-report an ethical conflict? That's what transparency is for. And right now, there's no transparency. How do you explain that? How do you explain $300 million transferring hands, and not a single person has been told who's giving that money and who's receiving
or how much.
it.
I trust we will see that. But here's the thing. We're talking about $300 million in spending here. We're also talking about $42 billion in spending, or actually $8 billion for 42 million people that are going to be missing their SNAP benefits coming up in just a few weeks. The issues that our country faces, just like Tim said, are much bigger than this White House renovation. We're talking about a government that's been shut down for now 22 days. We did our job in the House of Representatives. We passed a continuing resolution to keep the government open. Senate Democrats need to do their job, pass that continuing resolution, get us back to work. The people in my district, in Tom's district, in your district, Sarah, I don't think they're focused about this White House renovation or what's happening in the East Wing. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about our economy. They're worried about SNAP benefits. They're worried about health care. All the things that we're not talking about when we're spending time talking about.
That's a good point.
$300 million on the White House.
But I think that's perhaps to Tom Tillis's point. He's been busy, according to CNN's reporting, showing visitors 2 flat tabletop models, at times quizzing the room on which version they preferred, the smaller one or the bigger one. Most answered they wanted the bigger one, to which, of course, Trump agreed. Again, the government is shut down. SNAP benefits are getting ready to run out. That's the context. But the president is running around showing tabletop models of a massive ballroom during a time when the government's not even operating, not bringing congressional leaders to the White House to negotiate.
Well, that's right.
Bruh. Amazing how Abby Phillip finds a way. She finds a way to flip a pretty good point, right, about the media's coverage of the situation. The fact that she chose to talk about this topic, right, because that's what it is. It's a criticism of her. Why are you choosing to talk about this topic when we have a government shutdown and in a few weeks, maybe less than a few weeks, people are not going to be getting their food stamps, right? They're not be getting their welfare benefits. Government employees aren't being paid, all because Democrats don't want to open up the government because, again, they hate Trump, right? They're trying to virtue signal to the far left. Why are you talking about this topic? Why is this even a topic of discussion? It doesn't really affect anybody, right? So she finds a way to flip that around. And it basically, well, see, why is Trump focused on this while all these things are going on? Why is he not bringing in the congressional leaders to negotiate? There's nothing to negotiate, dumbass. There's nothing to negotiate. The continuing resolutions on the table to open up the government. Everything else that needs to be, quote unquote, negotiated can be negotiated after the government is open, period. So that's why he's not bringing in Democrats to negotiate, right? Because there's nothing to negotiate. The continuing resolution is on the table. It's there for Democrats to vote on, right? To vote for if they want to open up the government, in which they've chosen, if I believe, the 12th to 13th time, right? to literally not open up the government. They said, we're not going to open up the government. They voted against doing that. But according to Abby Phillip, right, on CNN, well, Trump needs to be the one to bring Democrats in to negotiate and to get the government back open, right? Again, it's so disingenuous, man. It really is.
I mean, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have not been in a White House meeting since this shutdown started, and instead the White House has negotiated by AI meme videos. I mean, that's not how you get to a negotiation. And before you say,
what
like,
is there to negotiate? We passed a clean continuing resolution, no partisan riders, no poison pills.
It wasn't clean, first of all.
It was the resolution that Democrats had supported in the past
In your district
previously.
alone, Jeff, in your district alone, if we do nothing about these ACA tax credits, 33,000 people are going to lose health care just in your district.
I know, which is
So
why I'm on a
that's
bill
why
with
we
Tom
need to do
Suozzi
something.
that would extend the enhanced premium tax credits for a year. This is an issue that we need to
It's
address.
two separate issues. It's not the same issue. Like, you're conflating those things. The government shutdown has nothing to do with the Obamacare tax credit, but this is the silly game that they play. And see, it's funny because if a Republican was to do a sleight of hand like that on this show, Abby Phillip would surely correct the Republican and say, listen, these are two different things, right? You're conflating issues. But she's not going to do that. She's going to continue to go along with this stupid narrative that somehow, some way, there's something to be negotiated with in order to open the government back up when there's nothing to be negotiated. The healthcare thing is completely separate than the spending issue, right? It is completely separate. And again, Democrats just being disingenuous, man. I can't stand these people. I really can't. I mean, the longer this government shutdown goes on, the more annoyed that I get by it, because these people are just refusing to acknowledge the reality that Democrats are literally just shutting down the government for their own personal gain. They're hurting their own constituents for their own personal gain. And then they turn around and pretending like, no, see, I'm trying to fight for my constituents. I'm trying to help people with their health care costs. And it's like, well, I'm not sure how much that's going to help people if, hey, they're losing their welfare, right? They're losing their welfare. You have government employees not being paid, okay? They're working without pay. Some might get evicted. Who knows? Landlords got to get paid, right? The bills don't stop coming in. But again, for whatever reason, Democrats try to pretend as if they're helping people, right? They're helping people pay their bills, right? They're helping lower costs for people. It's like, no, you're not. You're just making people's lives unnecessarily more stressful, again, for your own gain, because you don't want the far left to take over your party.
But we need to do it in the context of a government that's open, not closed.
Let's just point out.
I've asked this before. I mean, you're just acknowledged, as many Republicans who've come on the show have acknowledged, that you want to, do something about the tax credits expiring, and that, you probably will. So why not just do it now and reopen?
Because they're two separate issues. That's why. They're two separate issues. It's nothing to negotiate when the government is shut down. That's not how this works. When it comes to the continuing resolution, when it comes to keeping the government open, right, funding the government, that has nothing to do with the Obamacare subsidies. And conflating the two opens up the precedent that in the future, okay, when it comes to a shutdown, Democrats or Republicans could hold the government hostage, could hold the country hostage in order to negotiate on some issue that has absolutely nothing to do with the government being open, right? That's why you don't fold and capitulate the Democrats and their stupid demands, even if you agree with extending the Obamacare subsidies, which I do not agree with. I think that Republicans need to grow a spine and to tell the American people the truth about how Obamacare is actually raising the cost of your health care, that Obamacare needs to be repealed, okay? And you need to have more free market and more competition in the healthcare system. That's what really needs to happen. And that's what annoys me about this whole conversation, that Republicans don't have a backbone to actually tell the truth about how Obamacare is ruining healthcare in this country, right? But they go along with it because it's easy. It's easy to say, hey, you know what? We're just going to extend these subsidies. Instead of saying, no, we're going to fix the issue with the healthcare system by getting rid of Obamacare and dismantling the whole damn thing.
The government.
Holding the government hostage over a policy issue like this is
so
not
essentially this is on principle.
And also, hold on.
I mean, I get it. The reason I'm saying that is because, look, people at home, I really think that if you're wondering if you're going to make ends meet in the next week or two, you don't really care at all about the principle. And I understand what you're saying, because trust me, I've covered a lot of these shutdowns here that, frankly, Republicans have been the holdouts on. So I get that shutdowns are absolutely terrible. We shouldn't be here.
And the Democrats
but
are
if,
the ones
but if at the end
now.
of the day, you guys are just going to turn around tomorrow and negotiate, how do you explain to Americans that you won't just sit down and do it now, and put aside this desire to be right?
Well, look at what I've done. I'm already on legislation. I'm committed to discussing this. Here's the thing, though. When we talk about negotiation, what did the Senate Democrats introduce? It was a 68-page piece of legislation. Do you want to know how much the enhanced premium tax credits were in those 68 pages? 1.5 pages. They're talking about, closing the government over enhanced premium tax credits, which is just a fraction of what they're demanding in the Senate. I don't think it's a realistic proposal what Democrats are doing in the Senate. How are we supposed to negotiate in a context where it's not even accurate what they're saying? It's 1.5 pages.
I've talked to a lot of Democrats and a lot of Republicans, and most people want the government reopened, and many people, I should say, on the Republican side, do want to do something about these premium tax credits that expire on January 1st, and people's premium is going to go through the roof.
Yeah, so if that's the case, you can essentially flip around what Abby Phillip just said and say, well, why is it that Democrats are refusing to open up the government when they know that Republicans are willing to negotiate on the Obamacare subsidies, right? If there's so much support from Republicans on the Obamacare subsidies, which, again, I don't necessarily agree with, but if this is what it is, why are you keeping the government shut down? Why are Democrats so obsessed with trying to win, right? Trying to show the far left that, hey, see, we made Trump fold. We made Trump come to the table and to agree with giving illegals health care and extending the Obamacare subsidies, right? Why do Democrats care about the optics so much, right? That's the real question. Because, again, they're two separate issues. But the whole point of this video is that this is, once again, peak Trump derangement. Peak Trump derangement. The ballroom thing is a nothing burger, right? Who cares? But they're making this out to be, so controversial, even though, again, it's not. We've seen this before. We've seen this happen. Presidents can decide, hey, we want to, upgrade the White House. We want to do this. We want to do that. Like, it is what it is. For the most part, it's been funded with taxpayer dollars, right? In this case, it's not, right? And these people are still boo-hoo whining and crying about it. again, it just goes to show you, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? It doesn't matter what Trump does. These people are going to find a way to boo-hoo, whine, and cry no matter what. And at this point, it really is pathetic. It's beyond pathetic. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.